Griner would then have to no longer play in the WNBA. This obviously isn't a money situation because Brittany Griner is now saying she's declining to play overseas and she will not play overseas.
Of course you would decline after this happened.
Yeah, I mean, that's
It's
reasonable.
like a hugely traumatic
I would hope so.
situation.
But you're stating you're saying it's a money reason, right?
Okay, first topic. It has long been said that if governments negotiate with hostage takers, then that will only encourage more of it. The U.S. has traded a Russian arms dealer for a basketball player. Is this worth it considering possible future ramifications? Is it reasonable to not negotiate with hostage takers if that will endanger the lives of the currently held hostages? Has the Biden administration made the world more dangerous for Americans by taking this action? Okay, yeah, so the whole thing with Brittany Griner and Victor Bout by now. We've talked about it before. I wrote this question because I wanted to expand on this, and not necessarily just focus in on this specific interaction, but the concept of doing this in general, right? If you think that Victor Bout is as dangerous as the media has been making him out to be, right? If you think that is the case, then is this? Should we not have been negotiating at all? The moment the Russians tell us is what they want, we're like, no dice, right? That should we be operating on some principle that because we want to keep people from being taken in the future, right? In this case, as a political pawn, right? We will sacrifice the person in the present. So I'll expand on that and on that whole concept. Sorry, Lactoid.
Yeah, so I thought this might happen, so I did two separate intros on this one. Anyway, so on one hand, freeing a weed smoker and a gun seller convicted on shaky grounds seems like quite the libertarian victory. But on the other hand, it doesn't feel very nice to free somebody willing and able to sell weapons to an organization which intended to use them against Americans, especially when it's for a political face. If Griner had been caught in Thailand or China, she would have faced far more severe punishment, potentially even death. But when someone gets caught for committing a crime, which is also a crime in the US, and then a potentially dangerous man is released for her instead of any other captives, I can see why that can be frustrating. It's good that an American is brought home, but let's not pretend this was a good deal. If it is a good deal, and in the future, if we can make good deals, then I think it does make sense to make those deals going forward. Sometimes you got to negotiate, and settlements, both parties walk away unhappy. That's the point.
Thank you so much. Next, we go to...
Yeah, so I actually struggled trying to find the right position here to understand where the inherent aggression is or isn't in this calculus. And I'm not necessarily married to it, but where I currently sit, and I'm actually willing to change my opinions if, especially if Lactoid or someone that understands libertarianism presents a good argument, is that I don't think the US has some duty of care to a prisoner so long as they're not within the United States. I'll explain. The United States has taken it upon themselves as a state actor to be the monopoly on the enforcement of violence and imprisonment. That being said, if they want to get rid of somebody outside of the US, I don't actually think that there's any reason that they have to maintain the capture of said person. However, I also do not believe that the United States has the authority to, in any way, shape, or form, prevent the families that are victims of the conspiracy that the Merchant of Death had with terrorist organizations in supplying them arms for the express purpose of killing those people, to stop them from legally being able to hire assassins to kill him. I think you should be able to go onto Google and say, where can I find a good assassin? And it should be perfectly legal because they abdicated any responsibility that they had to maintaining the justice system by giving him up. And so if I want to hire an assassin and my family was victimized by this person's conspiracy, I should be able to do that. And we should cheer them on for their right to kill this person. It's not murder. It's just justice because he didn't serve his time. Now, I do recognize a bad deal when I see one, right? Like this isn't like a good deal. Like it's not an intelligent move. I don't know what the fuck we presumably gained from this, right? We gained a micro celebrity that nobody fucking knew until this situation, right? And if you say that I'm wrong, bullshit, name a fucking WNBA team without Googling other than the one she's on. And I guarantee you can't fucking do it, right? Even if you love basketball, you probably can't. So we gained a micro celebrity that broke Russian law. We didn't get Paul Whelan. Now, Paul Whelan might actually be a spy or he might just be a piece of shit. I don't fucking know. But like we could have at the very least like negotiated a better deal, I guess. So I don't really know that we gained or lost anything from this. Like it may seem in the future, it may cause foreign states to be more likely to capture people if we have people that they want, that they find are valuable. Then they can just kind of grab someone on trumped up charges in this administration and others, Trump as well, and Obama, right? This isn't like a Democrat thing, have shown that they will trade up like war criminals and like for like random people brought up on trumped up charges. So it just seems stupid to me. But I don't know, maybe, but I'm excited to hear what Reverie is saying too, because he just did a whole panel on this. So maybe he's privy to some shit I didn't know.
Rez.
I'm going to start with a meme. My first thing I want to say, I agree with Fabian Liberty's first take that the homeless should be able to kill politicians that don't advocate for them. I think that is based as fuck. Second, I do think it's a good deal because I think that a lot of what we can look at Victor Bout doing going forward is going to be negligible, most likely as a propaganda arm of the Russian government. We have seen him already join with white nationalist groups to function through that. His actual effectivity of smuggling goods very specifically comes from his ability to leverage Soviet era technology that he was exporting to the world. And as Russia is currently going ahead and becoming an importer of weapons rather than an exporter of weapons, I think he will be reduced in that capacity if he goes back to that. But ultimately, I think it becomes a propaganda win for both sides, which keeps it honestly like sort of neutral to positive for the US. I think that personally, it speaks to our nation's ethos because I think Brittany Griner is an anti-American, honestly, very, very anti-American, socialist, whatever you want to call her, that goes against everything we stand for. And I am proud of my country for going ahead and standing up for voices that they don't like hearing. I think that there is a moral ethos that we have there that we should be going ahead and trenching ourselves to. But yeah, even like further than that, like I think that when we take the argument of Paul Whelan, we can look at the negotiations over the summer that the Biden administration was doing for Whelan and the Biden administration putting pressure on Germany to release a spy from there. They are classifying Paul Whelan as a much higher threat than Brittany Griner, for what it's worth. And I think that the better argument could be for this Fogel person who got arrested. But even then, I am in support of any Americans being brought back home.
Angel.
Okay. Yeah, so I think it's clear here that Brittany's weed charge, which is like cannabis residue in her vape pen or whatever it was, is part of the equation that people are just glossing over, that she did nothing at all wrong, whereas Paul Whelan actually was charged with espionage. Also, Trump turned down the prisoner swap that was, I guess, in talks prior when he was the president. And I forget the guy's name. I'm trying to find it. The one that Russia wants, because like we could also negotiate a swap for Whelan, but I believe the guy, his name starts with a V, I think, the Russian guy. He's being held in Germany right now, and it's a different prisoner. So Vinnick? Okay. Anyway, so he's in Germany, so it's not as easy, obviously, to access him. And I'm sure that could also be negotiated in the future. It's just a separate case. And so as we go through these issues, maybe he will be released or traded. Okay, I think there was something else I was going to mention, but I can't remember what it is, so I'll end there.
Ica.
Yeah, so near as I can tell, there are 3 issues that always come up with this conversation. One is whether or not the trade was worth it. So that's the Victor Boot conversation, which people have already brought up. The second one is whether or not there are other worthy prisoners that should have gone ahead of Griner, and we could talk about that. But 2 of the candidates are Paul Whelan that everyone's talked about, and another guy named Fogel, who was a teacher out of Pennsylvania, who was also caught with a much larger amount of marijuana on his way in. The thing about Fogel is he was caught earlier than Griner, so a lot of people think that he should have been released earlier. It was a sort of a similar thing. Well, we can go in later as to how those things compare. And the third is just the general idea of not negotiating, like incentivizing people to just capture more and more people so that they can get their own people back. And China's been doing this kind of stuff historically as well, and we can talk about that. For me, the big differentiation on the Paul Whelan stuff is that trade that's being asked for Vinnick, because people are acting as if this was an offer that was on the table for Victor Boot, and it just wasn't on the table from the Russians. They want to trade spy for spy, and that's not something that we could have gotten with this particular trade.
Let's go to Spartacus.
So we'll go over probably a few things in this. Do I think the trade was good? No, I think the trade was absolutely awful. I'm glad Brittany Griner is back. I'm happy for her family. If I was Brittany Griner's family, I would be ecstatic that she's back in the United States. But at the same point, do I believe this is a good trade? No. We traded a known and convicted, very, very powerful arms dealer to Russia, and we got back essentially a basketball player, citizen of the United States. That doesn't sound even to me. And on that point, if what could have made the trade a little bit better, and at this point I would start to hinge on it being worth it, is that we got Paul Whelan back, but that was obviously a failure. We did not get Paul Whelan back. Paul Whelan is still in jail in Russia over a non-corroborated report that Paul Whelan received a USB drive that contained names of intelligence officials. And who did we trade for these people? We traded Victor Bout. And with the claim that Trump turned down a Russia trade. So this is per Trump. I turned down a deal with Russia for a 1-on-1 swap of the so-called Merchant of Death for Paul Whelan. I wouldn't have made the deal for 100 people in exchange for someone that has killed untold numbers of people with his arms deals. So this is obviously Trump held Victor Bout as a very, very dangerous prisoner, and it was not willing to swap him to get back one American citizen or one American veteran back from Russia. And so that was the reasoning why Trump didn't take the trade. I would still say this trade's bad. I would be hinging on saying this trade's bad even if we got back Paul Whelan. But no, this trade has been absolutely awful considering we didn't even get Paul Whelan back.
And finally, David.
I think the only way this makes sense is if they gave him cancer or something before they let him go, because otherwise it makes zero sense. I don't think they should have done this. For her, for the other guy, I don't think it makes sense to open up the door to negotiations like that. Even if that means we sacrifice an American, and even if it's true that she did nothing wrong, I don't think it matters at the end of the day. I think long term, this is a negative thing.
All right, so up into the panel.
Can I say one
Doesn't he
thing?
have stage 4 cancer already? Like, we don't have
Does
to give
he?
it to him. He's got
So-
it. Yeah.
I was researching that. I can't find anything on that.
So
can't find anything on
I've
it
heard
either.
that he has cancer from a person on the Intercept, but I haven't seen any articles about it. They did it on a video, right? So I've heard it from them, but I don't see any other articles on it. So it's hard for me to tell.
Yeah, if that, I mean, that's true. That could change the calculus. But I mean, what is about the thought here of like, yeah, we can negotiate, but at this point, we negotiate as somebody who was an arms dealer who was like selling weapons to U.S. designated terrorist organizations that were going to use them against U.S. soldiers. For somebody who committed a crime that is also illegal here. That's the thing, right? You can't go through U.S. airport security smuggling drugs or even legal weapons such as firearms. Like if you get, you try to go through security with that, they'll arrest you and put you in jail. So, I mean, my question is Brittany gonna go to is she gonna go to an American jail when she gets back here for quite openly breaking the law? Or
dude, we both know that's not gonna happen.
No, she's not going to, because she wouldn't have broken the crime technically on American soil, right?
Right.
And like that gets like the arc, but
she broke it on Russian soil, and so she was sentenced by a Russian court.
It makes sense to,
well, yeah.
Do you think it makes sense to like charge her civilly for like some kind of fine or something? No, not civilly.
No, that would be a horrible fucking optics loss. That would destroy the whole point.
But think about this, right? So she fucks up. She does something stupid, and in response, we let go of this fucking merchant of death guy. Like that. Like it's the core of this was her fuck up, right? If she hadn't done this, there would have been no leverage. So I feel like there has to be some kind of consequence.
To Doobie's point, it's not like we haven't done that before. We traded for a army. Someone who was in the army. He abandoned his post. And after he got home, he got tried by the military court and convicted of abandoning his post. So it's not like we haven't brought someone back from being wrongfully imprisoned elsewhere and then get tried inside the United States. That it's not like there's no precedent of that happening.
But he joined I can't remember which terrorist organization he joined, but he left his post to go join the terrorists and then got captured, right?
Yeah, and I think,
that's
also the issue of
it's a little different than Brittany Griner joining to raise the red flag to fight the revolution against America. You know what I mean? It might be a little different,
I think with that guy there was also an issue. I think if I remember correctly, there was the issue of they actually sent people to look for him, and some of those soldiers died. Right? It's because they were out looking for him.
Thinking that he had been kidnapped when he had abandoned his post.
So I'm just curious, is this going to be, for the people who are in favor of this, is this going to start becoming the new norm where Americans who get arrested for bar fights or drunk driving or something, will we start trading international terrorists for them?
Do you think that we are dismissing on ignorance here? Because we did put the Russian travel advisory after she was captured. It was even after the outbreak of it was before the outbreak of the Ukrainian war that they're doing. So this is a normal thing for WNBA players to go over to Russia and play. It's many of them admit to this because otherwise they make $130,000 a year, and then they have a whole off season where they can make money. So it's normalized that they're going over there to do this, but so they're probably going to end up losing that revenue source if they follow the advisory, right? So I guess the question is are we going to get mad at people for just being dumb and probably not really thinking that hard about it if this is normalized within?
I think it's generally a bad idea.
Well, wait, but she was breaking the law.
It's generally a bad idea though to go to Russia. If you go to Russia,
especially with drugs,
it's generally a bad idea. It's not. I don't really see any reason why I would go to Russia. It seems like a bad idea to me. There's no reason for me to go to Russia.
You know what it reminds me of? You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of these girls that have these travel blogs, and they're how you can travel the world as a girl by yourself, and then they'll go to some fucking Muslim country and not wear a hijab and get kidnapped or disappear or something. And it's I feel bad, but then I'm also but bitch, you were on the border of Pakistan hiking by yourself. The fuck did you think was gonna happen?
But
I feel bad, but also, what the fuck are you doing?
But I don't think that is an apt comparison at all.
Angel.
But to add on to that, Scott, it obviously didn't make.
I want to hear from Angel. Angel, you were trying.
Yeah, so I don't think that comparison is apt, and I also think that if you were to switch this situation up, and it was LeBron James that accidentally left his vape cartridge in his suitcase or whatever the fuck, especially prior to the war breaking out, would this not be hugely different? The lucky thing for LeBron is he never actually has to go to Russia. as a women's WNBA basketball player, you have to go to these places to supplement your income.
False.
Wait, at 130 grand a year, you don't have to
so-
supplement your income.
You don't
So
have
wait, so
to.
wait.
but
Okay,
you're
obviously you
maximized,
don't
right?
have to. You can
It
stay
doesn't-
home and you can not get your income properly
doesn't- it-
supplemented.
it
but
doesn't-
what are
it
the
does-
alternatives to actually make anything like what you should be getting when you're award-winning Olympian that should be making a huge income because it's your
Okay,
fucking
let's-
life's work?
Let's make this very clear. It obviously doesn't make enough of a dent for Brittany Griner to care about it, because Brittany Griner has come out in the public and said, "I'm not playing overseas. I will play WNBA inside of America. I'm not playing overseas." So if this really was a money situation, Brittany Griner would then have to no longer play in the WNBA. This obviously isn't a money situation because Brittany Griner is now saying she's declining to play overseas and she will not
Of
play
course
overseas.
you would decline after this happened.
Yeah, I mean that's
It's
reasonable.
like a hugely traumatic
I
fucking
would hope so.
situation.
But you're stating
Second time,
you're saying it's a money reason, right? So if there was a money reason, then she would decline to play in Russia. She's declined to play overseas at all. And
Yeah, why
then
the
also
fuck
if it was
would
a
you
money
leave the
situation, she
country
would
ever
drop
again?
she would drop out of the WNBA because you wouldn't be making enough money. It's obviously not. These people need to go to Russia to make the amount of money that they need to survive. That's not it. And going to Russia
Angel,
is a bad idea.
Angel,
It's a bad
Angel,
idea in
can I
general.
just, Angel,
is
can I
literally
just ask you
just
like
a-
a real quick little question, just a tiny little question? Can you name 2 WNBA teams without Google?
I don't fucking follow basketball. I don't give a fuck about it.
Yeah, I don't follow
Okay,
sports.
can
at all.
anyone
also
here?
not
I follow
American.
basketball,
I couldn't
and
tell you
couldn't
two
tell you
NBA.
one.
I couldn't tell you two NBA teams.
That's
But
why
I
why
don't
does
even
that
know
matter?
fucking
So-
NBA
See,
teams.
it's-
Yeah,
it's-
exactly.
Yeah, like
Her
but
celebrity
here's the
isn't-
thing. This is literally a teacher getting
Gun
a
to your
summer
head,
job,
you could name a
effectively,
few
right?
fucking NBA teams.
Miami
No, I
Dolphins.
literally
don't
and you're
fucking know.
Canadian.
It's the Indiana
Literally
Heat and
couldn't.
Phoenix Mercury.
Phoenix.
Oh, wait, it's the
Mercury?
Phoenix. It's the Phoenix Suns.
It's Phoenix Mercury.
Oh,
Oh,
Sprout's
LOL,
trying to
we
guess.
don't even know
Sprout's
what the
trying to
fuck-
get us killed by terrorists like Victor Bout. So, like, here's the thing, though, right?
No,
Like,
it's two WNBA teams.
oh, okay. Oh,
Now
okay,
we
cool
know
for
them.
that.
It's brought
All
to
right.
light
Hey,
just
now
how
we know.
fucking
now we
pathetic the situation of WNBA is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no one watches. It's not entertaining.
This is
That's not
actually
the
like
point.
this is
That's
a
not
large
the
publicity
point.
stunt for the WNBA. This is,
Yeah,
it's like the sub
definitely.
conspiracy
I mean-
theory going on here.
That is a good sub conspiracy theory, though.
Fucking-
Yeah, I really look at this. It's just like, yeah, dude. Like, end of the day, the only people this is going to benefit are people that are like, yeah, gonna go ahead and shit on this woman for just holding anti-American views. I think that's a large part of why people dislike this is because Victor is super pro-Russia. Griner kind of hates America, but I guess she hates every other country more now because she's not going to go overseas. But this is really like
I don't even think
Sparkus,
she
this is-
hates America. She just
That's-
didn't want to. Like, it was George Floyd. There was a bunch of shit going down, and it's like to do with obviously anthems being
I
played.
think she's unequivocally stated that she hates America before.
Okay,
So like,
well,
yeah, I'm gonna give
she probably
that
loves
one.
it now.
She, yeah, like, or at least like hates everything a little more.
Hearts and
But this
minds.
is her. But
All right,
Sparkus,
one at
this
a
is
time.
her just
One
getting
Russian
a-
prisoner at a time. We will make people love America.
See,
But Sprout,
That's
this
what you
is
gotta
literally
do.
just a teacher getting a summer job, right? And that's like, if you get offered a certain amount of money, everyone has a price. No matter what anyone says, everyone has a price. And I think that
Okay,
being
but
Russ,
risk
ignorant about
versus
it-
130
reward.
grand is
Risk
not very
versus
much when
reward.
you've put your entire fucking life into this. And just imagine like how much she has to pay for.
Wait,
for her upkeep.
130 grand isn't very much when you put your
That's a
entire life in
garbage
this.
ass fucking wage
one
for a
second, one
professional
second, one
athlete at the
second, one second,
Olympian level.
one
3
second, please.
seconds?
One
Three
Let
second,
her
thank you.
go. Let her-
She
let-
interrupted me.
No. Sorry. I meant to say let you go. I apologize.
Okay.
Let Sprout-
All right. So you're talking like 130 grand isn't very good for someone who's poured their entire life in this. There's people that go through education, go through 8 years of college, and still don't make 130 grand coming out of college. I highly disagree when someone's like 130 grand isn't enough. No, 130 grand is enough, and there's be a lot of people that would kill to make 130 grand a year. So no, that's bullshit on its face.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people that would commit genocides for $500,000 a year.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, I just
That
don't
are
think
they're
it's
gonna do
analogous.
things. This is literally the WNBA. This is normalized that their players will go to Russia to play on the off season, right? Brittany Griner did a fuck up with the drugs, right? We know that, and then this whole thing came about. right? Do you think that WNBA players are probably going to be less likely to go there to begin with? Yes. So I think that, yeah, there's a change in the equation when this was a normalized behavior that didn't go punished, that likely there were people bringing carts and shit like that aside from Griner, right?
Can I ask you 2 questions real quick? Or I guess 1 question to the 2 of you, to Angel and Rez. So I don't make 130,000. Okay. But let's say like I took a few months to go to like teach law in China or some, American law in China or some dumb shit. And I got busted in China with like marijuana. And in China, like the death penalty's on the table for smuggling drugs. Would you trade Victor Bout for me?
Yes, 100%, unequivocally.
Like,
Yeah, no
Yeah,
question.
of course.
What if I got in a bar fight? What if I got in a bar fight? Then would you trade Victor Bout for me?
Yeah, I would actually be more likely to do that because you've shown your willingness to go ahead and engage in physical combat, which makes me think more of you.
With the Chinese. That's pretty good.
No, because like you're what? Soy milk. So like that's the thing. It's like it makes you a little bit like stronger. It shows you the strength of your bones. Did you win the bar fight or did you lose?
He lost epically.
It's classified information.
All right. Well, okay, dude. You gotta win the fight. Like win the fight, it'll be better. But honestly, I'll give you heart. You got that American heart. So yeah, it's still no.
So hold on. I wanted to address this because you put this for Lactoid previously about like the bar fight. Well, like. One, should we be having political calculations as to who we get out or who we don't? Like, if it's an American who's unjustly, I think it's very important, imprisoned, then like maybe not, right? Maybe it's just like, oh, we have an individual and we got to go get him because we're Americans, right? Maybe that's just a value call that we should have. But also, like, there are Americans like who are unfairly imprisoned around the world, like right now, and we don't know their names, right? Because most of them aren't. Will have
because they're in FBI black sites.
Really good one.
That's different, Scott. It's different.
It's different. It's totally different, man. But yeah. So you don't know who these people are. And so they have no notoriety. That doesn't mean the State Department isn't actually working on them, right? Like working to get them out. This is a thing that our State Department does. Like you can, when you travel, you can actually register with the State Department and say like, this is where I'm going and for how long, right? I've done that before as well, right? In case something happens, they can actually look into it. We have a State Department that does exactly this stuff. I think that there is a clear difference between the normal like injustices that happen with people who are traveling around and this situation. This situation, right, isn't you, Lactoid. I love you, but you're a nobody, right? This isn't nobody Lactoid getting in a bar fight. This is a person with some
Brittany Griner.
Some level of
the Brittany Griner. Wow. Holy
some level
shit.
of notoriety. And then, but one or the other, she got media attention, right? Like maybe if she had
the market,
market
has determined that her value is 130K a year. That's how much of a somebody.
Thank you for bringing it back.
Wait. The market also determined that I guess like she is more valuable being a celebrity for prisoner swaps, right? So that's a hidden perk, by the way, in her salary.
Give you like 2 or 3 years. Give her 2 or 3 years.
Let's also be clear here. It is almost guaranteed there was some sort of actuarial analysis about the damage that Victor was going to do to the United States versus Brittany Griner that was done by Department of Defense officials that know math way better than I do, right? There's probably actuarial analysis that we don't understand towards geopolitical means, but I think ultimately it kind of sits there. I really think Victor is just going to be a propaganda piece who's likely, he built his entire career, the 8 years that he was being sought after by NATO allies, Eurozone allies, and whatnot. They had one picture of the guy. We got the intel album probably that we need. We know what he looks like. He is not going to have the efficacy to do what he was doing before as well. Like what is he going to do? He's going to smuggle weapons into Russia. And that's going to be somewhat difficult for
But
NATO
that wasn't what he ever did. His specialty was smuggling weapons out of Russia.
And
Right.
Russia's
Specifically Soviet era weapons that are now like over 40 years old. And whatever stashes he had when he was caught are now 15 years old, if they exist at all anymore, if anybody else hasn't gotten to them. And also, he's been in there for 15 years. He was due to be released in about 5 or 6 years. So if you object to making this trade now, then you might also object to releasing him at the end of his date in 5 years. But that's exactly what we would have done. No,
Yeah.
because
I got 25, right?
15% off for good behavior. So he would get, he's been 15 in another 6 years, he would be released.
For good
the
behavior?
difference is,
I don't know if that
Yeah.
works with like Interpol.
I don't think that applies
it
to
might.
foreign
It might.
nationals.
I actually don't know.
that's what all the reporting's been, is that he was due to
Okay.
be released in 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
If he was that dangerous, he'd been Gitmo.
I think Rez was saying a lot of truth there. And I think that his how dangerous he is has been like overblown and in general. But like a danger to Americans. Now I could be proven wrong about this, right?
Right.
So I'm willing to.
I'm with you. I think they may have exaggerated a little bit how dangerous the quote merchant of death was.
Yeah, that sounds like a media sensation, right?
I don't know about that, because if we look at like what he got caught for, the FARC tap that they did, he was literally willing to supply 30,000 AKs, 1,000 tons of C4, like something like 300 or 400 UAVs, like a lot of actual real
And
No,
ground
he-
air missiles
like
too.
Yeah,
to the point that he could have an actual standing army that could be
Yeah,
built off
he
that,
was- he
larger than
wasn't-
some armies of the world.
he was an arms dealer, right? And so he
Yeah.
dealt arms. I'm saying like the risk to the homeland, and the way that they have like kind of conceptualized this in the media. I don't think that I think from the country that is the number one arms dealer, right? Where so much of our arms flows out, right? And ends up in the hands of our enemies, right? This happens regularly. We know
What do you mean?
this.
What do you mean?
Because they
ends
left them in
up?
Afghanistan.
We
We give them.
literally what do you mean the Pentagon literally makes $100 million deals all the time to sell them to our enemies?
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
the Picatinny
right?
deal,
Yeah.
right? Like we
So-
just sold like $350 million worth of arms. Now, granted, if you want to talk about certain types of munitions that we sell to Turkey and then they end up in our enemies, like that's a thing, right? Like like Al Nusra and shit. But like in terms of like like, hey guys, we have a rebel group and like they're gonna topple this dictator and we're gonna give them hundreds of millions of dollars worth of munitions, and like we're pretty certain that this rebel group isn't gonna be a terrorist organization. And then 3 years later, it's like, oh fuck, all right, so our bad again. We've only been doing this since
I
the
actually-
1970s.
Yeah.
What
This guy
happens
is
is
all
I think
in
there's a
there.
difference here actually, because when one you're actually like trying to, at least the intent is to like accomplish some kind of noble purpose. The other one, like he was specifically selling it to like people who
Yeah,
had the
Yeah, like-
intent to use it on American soldiers.
Charlie Wilson's war, you could make that argument. Like post that, right? Like the intent is to fuck up the region.
No,
The thing
but
is-
that's not-
the
No,
thing-
wait.
well,
Let's-
I think that Lactoid, even what you're saying here, his intent was to fuck up America. Like, I think his intent was to stir, conflict over the world. Yes, when he went into the Colombia deal, he literally said, yes, the Americans are both your and our enemy, or something like that. I'm sorry, as a salesman, you're going to try to go ahead and find some sort of commonality with somebody that you're pitching a sale to, right? To begin with. It's just an added benefit, if nothing else.
But nobody's
Here's-
disputing the shit that he did in the past, or that he was deserved the sentence he got, or any of that. The question is his ability to continue to do that in the future. That's the question. And again, like his contacts are dried up. He was selling outdated munitions to begin with. That stuff is not
You
there.
have to
And
look at
Russia
where he's selling
isn't
you-
off. This stuff's not on offer anymore. If anything, Russia is more desperate to bring that stuff back in if they could.
You have to look at where he was selling this though. He
Yeah.
was selling firearms in Africa and turning what would be a mild civil war into a very, very dangerous civil war, selling them guns and armory and stuff like that, and being able to arm both sides of the war at the same time,
Yeah,
and causing
that's
a
true, but
massive
when the-
conflict where a massive conflict should have never existed.
But when the intelligence agencies are doing this risk analysis, they're not, assuming that there's a time machine. They're looking at what he can do in the future, not at what he's done in the past, because he's already been convicted of that. And if there's a risk to letting him go, like if, let's say he did have stage 4 cancer, like some of the rumors were, then you wouldn't then say, well, because of the stuff he did in the past, that's the reason why you can't make the trade. No, people make these trades all the time when when you've crossed that bridge and the danger is now behind you. That's when you can then make those trades. And that's what that risk analysis is all about. It's about assessing risk in the future, not in the past.
So two different things. The first thing is to address,
Still
I guess,
same context.
Rez and Scott's point. I think the difference here, like looking at it at a micro level, would be if I sell a gun to somebody who says, I'm going to shoot like your friend over there. I'm going to do it. Like, sell me the gun. Okay, that's one thing. And then the other thing is like, I'm going to sell a gun to somebody who is like a friend of mine, in an actual alliance with me in like the geopolitical sense, like on a personal level, like Turkey is part of NATO, right? You're selling it to a friend, and like the friend, and you say like, okay, friend, like don't do something bad with this gun. And they say, I'm not going to do it. And then like they go afterwards and they give it to somebody who they think is good. Don't do anything bad with it. I'm not going to do anything bad with it. And then they like that third person removed or something does something wrong with it. I think there's a difference when we're talking about like in terms of punishment, just because of the proximate cause there, right? The proximity between your action and the intent of killing American soldiers compared to some effect down the line. And to that effect down the line, Aiko, I'm curious. I don't know if they can do that. I don't know actually why they couldn't do it now that it's already happened. Why they couldn't release the sort of like actuarial, like, well, I guess maybe then it gives an insight into how we think about our prisoner trades in the future. Maybe we don't want to do that, but
maybe so.
I'm skeptical that even I agree with you that his global influence is probably diminished, but in terms of like we suspect that he has some ties to the Russian intelligence, that he has lines of communication, at least perhaps still in some areas of the world, especially areas that are not U.S. friendly. Perhaps the Russian government kind of sees him as a useful asset in that regards. I don't know, but I'd be willing to bet a lot of money that he is more geostrategically useful than Brittany Griner is.
I think we're being honest about it, right? Let's just set aside like let's assume that neither of them have any like meaningful ability to individually affect change, right? Let's just a little thought experiment, right? Brittany Griner isn't going to change anything in the world by being back other than the Pyrrhic victory, right? And the same for Victor Bout, right? If we assume that for a moment, I think Reverie is kind of right here. Whereas, the Biden administration doesn't really give a fuck what conservatives think about this trade, right? They're going to be mad. They're never going to vote for any of their people anyways. So like, what does it look like to the normie, and what does it look to people who vote Democrat? And I think the people who vote Democrat especially, and maybe to many normies, they're happy that the administration secured a deal to get an American citizen back, right? To fight this injustice. And that and like, I also don't buy this idea that like her being anti-American matters to the Democrats, because the Democrats fucking love that fucking like silver spoon socialist argumentation shit all the damn time. Like, so I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing for them. And to Russia in the current conflict and situation, right, to be able to sell to their people, even if this guy doesn't do anything, that America is weak and that America gives us back our people, and that we still have the ability to like strong arm America to give us back our people and to like keep in the fight, kind of like patriotically in this Ukrainian conflict. I think it's a perfect victory for them symbolically too. So like, I think maybe like stop thinking about it from the domain of like what is good for America and like the parties involved in what it is that they want, right? And I think the parties involved when we're talking about the Biden administration don't really give a fuck what a third of this country believes. Why would they? And I would think it would be the same for Trump, right? When Trump refused the deal, right? Even though there might be like some liberals that are like, dude, we got to get one of our people back. Like Trump, no, he's like appealing to his base, which is like, we don't negotiate with terrorists. Fuck these people. We're not doing that. Like there's an ideological difference.
Yeah, politically it makes sense. Yeah, I would never argue that it doesn't make political difference or a political. It makes political sense for Biden to do this, right? Obviously,
right.
And I think
strategically.
And I think the race and the gender
actually do
component
anything
has something to
other.
do with it. I think the race and the gender component had
But
something
I
to
mean,
do with it as well.
it has
think that
propaganda value.
Yeah, the
for
fact that it
both
was a black
sides.
lesbian and they were so excited that it was a black lesbian, you know, obviously.
Yes.
But propaganda
Yes.
is strategic as well. Like there's value for both sides in what it is that
Mhm.
they're getting back, mostly domestically. In the case of both of them, it's a problem. It's a strategic advantage in terms of domestic politics.
Yeah,
So
and I
say-
think
so-
that it
so
also
say-
serves the longer arm of what is our State Department's policy, which again, for Trump's credit, he was negotiating, right? We're actually going to be negotiating later this week. There are already apparently scheduled talks to continue to try to bring back Paul Whelan, which I fully and wholeheartedly support, right? There are ways that we can do this. And I think the longer arm of the State Department isn't necessarily just within one party. I think it is just our general, I don't know, debt that I think that the state owes to the individual. If a state has to exist, it owes the individual something, that if that individual puts in something for the reciprocals.
So Reservoir, say we capture and try a Russian for war crimes in Ukraine, right?
Yes.
We capture and try a Russian for war crimes in Ukraine. What's going to stop Russia's thought process of, oh, we'll just make up some bullshit charges on a few American citizens and we'll make sure we get them back?
Well, I think that that's the point of like why we have to go ahead and put some more enforcement arms onto our our not travel advisories that we place on Americans, right? So when we went ahead and put the travel advisory into effect in Russia on October 4th of this year, right? After that point, like, yeah, maybe just be like, hey guys, why don't you get out of here and make it like a little bit less hard? I still think we should bring those people back, but maybe after we go ahead, if we go ahead and put the laws into place where we can try people who are effectively doing a harm to America, like through our geopolitical means. Yeah, I think that we could go ahead and code this into law, but we have to encode that into law to go ahead and actually try them in the first place, because I think that at the end of the day, I don't think there's anything necessarily illegal about it. I originally was going to ask Lactoid, are U.S. citizens under federal jurisdiction worldwide? Because I honestly don't actually know that because some of the
Somewhat.
I think with the
They actually are somewhat.
Yeah, I really don't know anything about that. Was interested to pick your brain on
Does it
that.
depend on the severity of the crime?
Yeah, it depends on certain crimes.
Yeah, I think like
sex trafficking is like the big one, where like if you're traveling to other
pedophilia,
countries,
yeah.
that shit, like
Yeah.
the American government, even if you're not on U.S. soil, they will still come after you. The U.S. government. The U.S. government actually is different from a lot of governments in that it's somewhat unique in how much it enforces its law on its citizens outside of its country. Almost no other country does it. Even the like pretty strict authoritarian ones don't do it to the extent that we do, right? You get taxed on income that you make in a different country, that you pay taxes to them, and then you have to pay taxes to us as well. It's pretty crazy. But I don't know. I mean, she did break the law there, right? I mean, I think I feel like people just kind of gloss over that. Like, I don't know.
Hold on. Let's. Okay. If this was the 1940s, right, and I do what I like to do and put my penis on a white woman, right? Like I'd be breaking the law in certain jurisdiction, right? And you can say, well,
yeah, it's an illegitimate law.
Break the law. Yeah. Prime did break the law. He had made sweet love to that beautiful white woman. And so should someone take action? Yeah, but so there's an illegitimate law, so there's that, right? But there's also maybe a legitimate law, which I don't think drugs are, anti-drug laws are, but let's say that is a illegitimate law. Like we can say that the punishment might be illegitimate, right? So if it's like you said in China, where let's say she did the exact same thing, like well, the death
A lot of
penalty
Asian
is on-
countries.
yeah,
I think
the
it
death
makes sense
penalty.
that
Because of the
Pressure on
Opium War.
I think it makes sense to like put pressure on them to release somebody like that, like you in that example. but I don't think that you should be doing it in a way that makes you look weak. And I think this makes the United States look weak, like Scott laid out earlier. I think it makes a lot more sense to pressure them to release them if that's what's going to happen. And if they don't, then we accept it as a loss. Right?
How do you pressure them? Can you provide an example?
Sanctions, very, very harsh sanctions. I'm sure there's assets
Or a
in the
single
U.S.
person?
that belong to. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because it's further. Then this is if they're
But
like
we're already
refusing
maxed
to
out
release
on
a U.S.
sanctions.
citizen. They're refusing to release like a U.S. citizen that has been like snatched up on some bullshit charges, or if they arrested you for putting your dick in somebody, right? Say, hey, we think this is unjust. You need to release our citizen back to us. And if they don't, then we can come up with some creative ways to force them to. And if they don't do it, if they dig in their heels and they say, hey, we're not going to do this, well, then shit, you take it as a loss. Prime, you're going to stay in there forever. I'm sorry. Brittany, you're going to stay in there forever. Mr. Whelan, you're never coming home. It is what it is, right? We add this to the book of grudges that we have against Russia.
Right, but Doobie, like the problem, and why I keep bringing it up that it's illegal is because it is illegal. And look at the precedent, illegal in America, and look at what kind of precedent that sets, right? Which is our citizens commit crimes in your country that we also consider crimes, and we don't think they should get punishment for it if they do it over there.
Yeah,
but
it's really
not if they do it over
no.
here, though.
That's not necessarily true. Like we have certain precedents. Like this used to get talked a lot about in terms of diplomatic immunity, which is to say, if you violate a law in somebody's country, the agreement is you will be tried in your home country in those cases for that same crime.
If you're a diplomat.
If you're a diplomat, but that's what I'm saying. But this is the theory that's in operation when you're having these kinds of discussions.
Right, but the
And
country
so
agrees to that ahead of time.
yeah.
And they get tried in their own country, which is not happening here.
Yeah, but if you were to but it would happen, except for the fact that she's already faced a punishment that goes beyond what she would have gotten in the United States.
Yeah,
so to
that's
like
probably true.
double dip and say you have to pay that price again doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
What about somebody who, because you know how a lot of countries in the Middle East and Asia and elsewhere, it's like illegal to be gay or like a same-sex union, or not even a union, but just relationship or any activity at all is gay or is illegal, criminal.
Right.
What do you think? Like, if somebody, say, like, let's take Brittany Griner or somebody similar, it goes there for like sports or work or whatever, and then get charged with being gay, and then now they're a prisoner. Do you think the situation is different? Like, and how so? Because it's like
Well,
the
it's not-
nature of the crime is so.
Well, it's different in the sense that that's not illegal here.
That's
right?
relevant
Which
to
what
the
she was
counter
doing,
topic.
what she was doing in Russia was legal
Anywhere.
there and was legal here, or illegal here.
Do we
right?
have
You
enough
can't do it.
details on the actual crime? Like, was it just because it's? I've
She had
heard-
weed in a pen.
She had 1 gram of resin within the pen that she was caught on the 18th of February with and detained, and then
Or was
announced
a whole
detainment on
gram?
the
Is it
24th.
legal in her
It
state?
was
Not a
a
whole
gram.
gram.
Because
Well,
I
well,
read
there's all-
something that said residue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it was-
saw
No. It
a
was
lot of
resin.
those
It was
gram.
it was resin.
It was a
Resin.
gram of
yeah.
resin.
Yeah. So
was-
that
I'm
that
the
goes
resin.
along. That goes a long way. And
It's
No,
in
no.
my
and,
name.
and there's modifiers in terms of like international crime, for example. Like if you are internationally smuggling some drugs, that typically has higher penalties than like if I bring a bag of weed to my friend's house down the street.
But keep in mind, she was being charged with trafficking, which
Right.
bringing in 2/3 of 1 gram of resin, which she says was a mistake or an afterthought or whatever. That's not enough. Like, exactly how much distribution are you going to make off of an
Which
amount
again
that small?
makes the punishment completely
Yeah.
unfair.
Hey,
And it
she
wasn't-
needs the
it
money,
wasn't
right?
Russia, we all know Russia is
Only
against
130
really
grand.
fun. Dude, it's
By
Russia's
the way,
really
LeBron makes
against fun
over 40
parties.
million, so a year.
No, hold
Okay,
on,
well,
hold
hold on, wait. Let's have Brittany
This
and
is objective
LeBron
value.
like go 1-on-1. Then let's see who wins.
Okay, hold on.
Who's worth the 40
things.
million?
Two
Who's
things.
not?
One, Doobie, Doobie, I think saying that like, well, we're not going to trade an individual person, right? A prisoner who has been out of the game of arms dealing for 15 years. We're not going to trade them. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to levy sanctions against the country for a single person. I asked you that, for a single person, and which means that we damage our own ability to trade with them. We're going to sacrifice all that money, and diplomatic interactions that we could be having for that single person rather than trading out a has-been arms dealer. Like I don't see how that
Well, I think-
calculus
I-
works
Prime,
at
I
all.
think-
Prime,
Well, I
would you
think
see
you're-
would you see it differently though if you think that would Russia be tempted to do that again? Right. So say
that's
that
the thing.
say
So
that one
you're looking
person
at
went
it
over there and we applied like a shit ton of sanctions. We're like, let that person go, or otherwise we are going to just economically fuck you. And then they're like, they experience economic distress. They're like, fine, here's your guy. Do you think they'll be tempted to try that one again? Versus, oh, we got back our guy. Congratulations, everyone. Yada yada yada. Oh no,
Well,
another
hold on.
Russian went to jail. Let me just kidnap another American citizen and charge us with bullshit charges.
American citizens on bullshit charges. They'd make sure that it was something serious, something they could prove, etc. Right? They wouldn't do for bullshit.
Under
charges anymore.
normal circumstances, I would agree. Here's the problem with this: is that because of the invasion, we're already sanctioning him up the yazoo, and any invasions that are left on the table require coordination with basically the rest of the world. Otherwise, they're ineffective. And so you can't really like introduce new sanctions.
Well, I'm using
What
this
you'd have to
theoretically.
do-
I'm using this theoretically, saying
Yes,
outside the Ukraine war.
But in this case, if what you have to offer then is backing off already existing sanctions in exchange for Grindr, that again would make you look weak, I think, because you'd say, "Oh, well, we're sanctioning you until you stop this invasion." Oh, but because you captured one of our people, like that's a trade I wouldn't have made. I wouldn't back off on any of the sanctions with regards to the war in exchange for someone like that, because that would just send the message that all we have to do is arrest a whole bunch of Americans and we can like win this war.
So, the other thing, well, Doobie, if you want to respond to me directly, then you can. I also have something that you'll Actoid about, and maybe Scott as well. And Scott, you can go after. Doobie? Yes.
Yeah, my position is basically what Spartacus laid out, right? That I think this might encourage them to continue this kind of stuff going forward. I think that the better thing to do would be to discourage it. If we can't do sanctions at this particular time, then we find some other reason. If we can't find any way to do it right now, then we just don't. Then we accept that they kidnap this person, charge them with some bullshit. It is what it is, right? Add it to the list of grudges, like I said earlier. I don't think it makes any sense to weaken ourselves on the national stage in the eyes of our enemies and in the eyes of our own people for this person or any other person.
You would also do this for sanctions, right? For bar fight lactoid. You levy sanctions
Wait,
against.
no, hold on. So there's a distinction. So if a citizen genuinely broke a law, right? Like, so let's say Lactoid, there's video of him causing a fight, beating the shit out of somebody, stomping their face. Well, then shit. Hey, you went to another country, acted like an idiot, so now you stay in prison. Right? I'm talking like bullshit charges, right? So if they genuinely like just made some shit up, they couldn't prove it, etc. Then that's the issue. Now, I have no issue with them charging Americans with like actual crime.
Okay, I'll have to jump in on that later.
That's what happened here.
But I'll lactoid. And to Scott, it seems like you guys being the eminent capitalists yourselves, it's weird. It's weird that
I was about to tie it in afterwards, but go ahead.
It's weird that you guys are like shaming this woman for like making money, for understanding that there's a market. There's a market for her skills, right? You're saying that, well, she's only making $130,000, then she goes to Russia? Like what's the decision making in that? The decision making is making more money. That's what it is, right?
Wasn't that Spartacus's argument though?
I don't know.
I'm not
Like,
shaming her. Like,
But
no, that has nothing to do with capitalism.
Hunt. Oh my
Resi,
sorry,
your
you got-
blowtorch is louder than Prime.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know what that sound was. But in any case,
Yeah,
like
stop doing
Lactoid, you're saying, well, yeah, why? She's made $130,000. She can make a lot more in Russia, right? Yes, it is indeed more than most people on this panel make, right? But she can make more. She doesn't make on parity what the male NBA players make, right? And you can say, well, the market doesn't allow for that. But the market does allow for it in Russia. You have like oligarchs who like buy these teams and just like as a status symbol, they like bring in these Americans. Russian people love to come and watch them, right? So yeah, you can make a shit ton of money doing that. Why wouldn't she do this, right?
What
Like,
I don't.
it makes perfect sense.
Can you make an argument, because what you're saying is it makes sense because money exists, right? I don't understand what the hell you're saying.
Why is
No,
It's nothing
LeBron
to do with
paid
anything.
over
Like, no,
40 million and she's not even $250,000? You
Because
can't say
she's
it's just
not
because he's
worth
a
$1
bit
million.
better. Yeah, okay.
Can I add one other
That doesn't
element
make
to
any
this
sense.
argument that
No,
Brian's raising?
the point
different
of
from what I
bringing
was
it up
saying.
though is should people really have to go to Russia?
No, this doesn't make sense. This sounds like people are just saying capitalism and attaching it and being like,
Okay.
see why you're wrong. Like there's no argument here.
Isn't it
The
fucked
argument-
though that you have to go to countries that potentially could do this to you?
This bitch does not have to go to fucking Russia.
Okay,
She makes
let's pretend I didn't say
Hold
have
on.
to, and you replace it with like should
Sorry.
financially.
No,
Sorry,
what?
sorry,
Yeah,
that's
there's
not
an
my
incentive.
argument.
Listen. There's a
I
financial.
hear the
incentive.
argument.
There's a financial incentive to go to Russia because you can make more money, right? There's also drawbacks in the decision you make, which is that you might get arrested for some dumb shit, and then you should be careful when you go to another fucking country with a travel advisory warning that you don't accidentally bring fucking drugs
That
over.
came
This
afterwards.
dumb
Yeah, the
pothead.
travel
that came
advisory
goes
wasn't out
with-
yet.
But
Okay, regardless, it's not like it's a secret
no,
that
it's
like,
not-
especially
no.
someone that goes there regularly and
It's
has a
not
bunch of other people like, hey,
regardless.
there's certain things when you go to
It's
another
not-
country, you got to be careful about.
It's not regardless. No, she made a stupid mistake. That's and back to it. I want to hear what you
Yeah.
have to say. She made a stupid mistake. That's absolutely the case, right? But that's separate from the idea of going to Russia and making money. It's like, well, she makes $130,000.
But you're connecting it, and I don't understand. I'm confused.
Can
I'm
I add one
legitimately confused
element?
what your argument is.
What's your one element? Then I got
Just the one element, just real quick, because this has come up several times, and I've been wanting to interject this just when we hit that part of the topic, and that is we used to debate this all the time with like the NFL minimum wage. The argument wasn't that you can't live on a certain amount of money; it was that in an athletic career you only have so many prime years of money making to go, and your earning potential drops considerably after that, and so you have to make as much money during your prime athletic years as possible, and that's one of the things that I think incentivizes people to travel.
Okay, I want to say a couple things. So I guess to start out with, this is a hot take or whatever, but the reason LeBron James makes way more than Brittany Griner is the same reason why Brittany Griner makes way more than like a high school basketball team, which makes way more than like elementary school basketball team, which is that ultimately, like in terms of skill level and ability level, they're not even close. Ultimately, these leagues just exist to fill a particular market. It's not like this market is any more valuable. This market's actually tremendously less valuable. So it's less valuable market, and they're simply not as skilled, right? So if the argument is, well, they should just get paid equally, well, you put LeBron James against Brittany Griner as much as you want, as many games as you want, it'll be not even close. And I understand that when you're not as good at your job, and so you can't make as much money at your job, you perhaps might need to supplement your income with other work. And if part of that work is going to risky areas and engaging in like risky activity, then like you accept and consent to that risk in the same way that like if I went to go like coal mining, yeah, I can make a bunch of money, I guess, but there's also like a risk of black lung associated with that. And you could say, well, she never like the travel advisory was afterwards, so she didn't actually have like a reasonable belief to be worried. That's fair. And I actually agree that if she was arrested on trumped up charges, and like then they put the travel advisory afterwards, then I'd like actually be almost in 100% agreement with Rez. The problem is that's actually not what happened here. Again, people are forgetting the fact that she either had or should have had in advance knowledge that drugs are illegal in Russia, and that importing drugs into Russia is a criminal offense for which there is massive penalties. That was the case before the war in Ukraine. That's been the case for decades. You can't do that. She knew that, and then she committed the crime, right?
So I want to push back a little bit.
And that was a risk that she accepted.
I want to push back a little bit because I don't want to go as far as Lactoid. It's an unjustifiable prosecution for a victimless crime, whether it occurs in America or occurs in Russia. But what I'm simply saying
Ultimately
is that it's stupid, right, to go to Russia and not be really careful about like what you have packed in your fucking bags. I don't know how many times you go to the airport and there are signs and everything everywhere being like, did you pack your own bag? Right? You want to make sure that you don't bring shit that's illegal to another fucking country. Like, it's stupid. However, I don't want to say that she consented to like the unjustifiable fucked up thing that the Russian government does to its own citizens. Just like no one here in America consented to being locked up in a country that has like fucking an overwhelming majority of the world's, an overwhelming minority of the world's prisoners because of victimless crimes. Right. Like, so I don't want to go quite as far as what you're saying.
I get that. I want to address that because I get that element. And ultimately I agree with you. Like, it's an unjustified crime. But I actually do think that when I'm where I'm born, when I'm where I'm at, or like in the same fucking country, in the same legal system, I think that like I have way more of like a argument when it comes to like nullifying certain laws, when it comes to saying like I don't want like it's unjust when this happens to me. But when you're first of all, when you're not financially pressed to, when you're making enough money to survive, and you actively take on the risk, even if like, again, it would be similar to like one person complaining about like being like blown up here compared to like going to like southern Afghanistan, like into the heart of like the Taliban and then getting blown up. It's wrong to get blown up. At the same time, when you like a reporter or something and you fly in a plane to the like that controlled area of Afghanistan and like you get blown up or something, yeah, it's a tragedy, but there is a more of an acceptance of risk there that isn't the case in America.
So but Lactoid, you said, Lactoid, you said if it was a trumped up charge, then you could understand it. But it was a trumped up charge, right? She was not guilty of trafficking. No one in their right mind is going to say that well, of course, yes, because she wasn't getting a fair trial.
A lot of people plead guilty to lots of things.
Yeah. But the fact is, two-thirds of a gram is not evidence of trafficking. Like if that was trumped up, if she was charged with possession, that'd be a different story. Then I would say, yeah, that's a legitimate charge. I might disagree with whatever sentence she got. I might not think it's worth a gulag, but I would agree that she violated the law. She did not violate the trafficking law in Russia. I'm
not an expert on Russian law. I don't know if they differentiate between like traffic. Like it could be that trafficking could just simply be like the minimum like required elements are bringing drugs into the country.
Only an expert on Canadian law. So like
she was charged and pled guilty to smuggling,
and she didn't.
Which she did.
She did smuggle.
Okay,
that's not smuggling.
That is smuggling.
That's kind of
You're telling me if you're
smuggling,
walking
but
down
it's not
the street,
trafficking.
Here, I'm telling you, like, if you stuck like a little bit of weed up your butt,
the
and you went to
illegal
an
movement
American
of goods
airport,
into or out of a country.
That would be smuggling. Yeah,
that's smuggling.
The American authorities would arrest you for smuggling, not even the Russian ones. So doesn't that seem like a little bit unfair? like I do it in America, I go to prison, but when Brittany Griner does it in Russia, they trade a weapons manufacturer.
No, you would never get that kind of
a weapons reseller, not a manufacturer.
Reseller. Yeah,
he was selling 91 era Soviet weapons.
Yeah,
so
your
game
your
down
game
a little bit.
just like went off.
But, okay. Sorry, I had the soul of Haas entered me for a moment. Is that better?
It's like the permanent Vosh emphasis voice.
Keep working on that. But okay, Lactoid, and Scott, you were trying to understand why I brought up the point that I did. Because I already acknowledged, so I'm sorry for hitting my mic. I already acknowledged that this was a dumb thing that she did, right? Mm-hmm. That's separate, that's built in. Okay? Don't do that. Right? Don't go to any country and break their laws, right? When you're in foreign soil, it makes things very difficult for you. Don't do that. Okay, but I'm talking about specifically the capitalist endeavor that she engaged in. Well, that the money making endeavor, where she decided that yes, she's not destitute, making $130,000 here, right? Like you said, it wasn't for survival needs, but there was an opportunity to make money in a legitimate business and an industry, being the American to Russia like basketball industry, that has been safe and proven, right? And
that's not what we have an issue with.
It just got proven not safe.
Wait. I don't have an issue with going to make money. I have an issue with you committed a crime. That is also a crime here.
But no. You kept saying, well, she was making $130,000. You kept bringing that up.
That was in response to somebody in the panel saying, well, she had to go because of how poor she was.
What? Yeah, people were saying she had to go, and I'm like, no,
she didn't have to go.
Okay, we were saying that she has to go.
Just don't bring drugs.
Unfortunate that they make so little that they
And pick
need
a
to
different
do
career.
things like that. Yeah, pick a different career, right?
Go into
But-
coding.
but wait 1 second. But like even let's say she were like actually like poor or she had like a massive bill, so she had to go to Russia, right? There's no
Yeah,
other
I'm a
option.
libertarian. No argument
Then-
there.
Oh, well, hold on. Then
Fuck your environmental
even
exploitation.
So even then, right? So even then, I don't think it's excusable for her to go to Russia, even though she's been forced to go there somehow to take some fucking weed with her. Why the
No,
fuck would
that
she
we
do
all know that was
It's
the
Well, that's
expensive.
shitty
what
thing
we're
that
criticizing
happened.
her for.
Well,
spent
but
that
we
on
all
food.
agree
We're
on
not
that.
criticizing her for wanting to make money. Like, make
Well,
money.
some of us were.
No, it's fine that she wants to make money. Just don't.
Yeah, but
bring
you
drugs.
even said that it was because she's not as good at her job, but she's actually tremendous at her job. She's a gold
No,
medalist.
that's why she makes less money because she's not. Look,
She
this is like the
yeah, you're
project.
comparing
This is a
her
fact of
to
reality.
something that's irrelevant.
She's not as good as LeBron James.
What? No,
She's
you're
not
comparing
nearly
her to
as good as
something that's
LeBron
relevant,
James.
which is men in basketball. Like,
Yeah,
you're the
it-
one throwing out.
Yeah,
random
but so
irrelevant
don't you
shit.
think it would be a good idea to maybe incentivize like better payment
No.
within America so that women
Then get better.
$130,000 is good enough payment for me.
That's a
If you
bad
make
idea.
130 grand,
That's bullshit, right?
I'm
What's
not
next?
fighting
The
it.
Little
If
Leagues?
you can
Payment.
make, if you can make 5 to 10 times as much in another country, don't bullshit me to say, "Oh, that's good enough for me." Little old Sprouticus, right? He'd be
Yeah,
happy
you
with
have-
6 figures, right? When he's
you have
making
no
Because
idea
that
what it's
market's
like.
bigger.
7 figures. Like if you could,
If
if I
you
told
wanna
you
give
to
it-
make
The
if-
Russians
if-
aren't
if you
doing
wanna-
it. The Russians
Yeah,
are doing it like on a gender parity, like woke ideology. Oh, we got to give her more money because like
I
women's
wouldn't
equality.
mind.
That's
I
not what
wouldn't
the
mind if
Russians
they're-
are doing.
I wouldn't
Yeah, I
mind if she
know.
was going to play basketball in Europe. I wouldn't mind. I would like there's no issues
let's-
playing
you wouldn't
basketball
mind
here.
if she was
She
going-
went to
Well, let's-
Russia.
You would, and you
So let's
didn't
look
care
at-
before.
let's look at a
This
real
was the
world
thing that was
example.
happening, and you didn't give a shit before, right? It's not like you were thinking,
Let's-
"Oh yeah,
No, I don't
these
think. I don't think we
basketball
should go to
players
Russia.
are
I
putting
don't think
themselves in
WNBA
danger.
should go to Russia. This
They
has never been a
weren't putting
topic. You've never
themselves in
heard.
danger
You've never
for
heard my
going to-
points on this.
they weren't putting themselves in danger going to Russia. That wasn't
They
a
were.
thing. That-
Is this
no,
the correct
no, it
math?
wasn't.
Who's good
It's
at math
unbelievable.
here?
Like
338,000 times more? Is that
Russia
correct?
wrongfully
If-
detained the Marine in
at
44
2018.
million
You're
You're telling me they
dollars.
didn't know it was a risk to be
338
wrongfully
times.
I
detained?
am making, if I am, like you said, like she didn't need to go there, right? Right. If I am making a minimum wage, I'm making a minimum wage, and my housing is secure, right? I'm working 3 jobs to make ends meet, but everything's secure. I'm not dying. I'm not starving, right? But I have the opportunity to make 7 figures. I have the opportunity to make 7 figures in Russia, right? Like, is it truly the case that I don't need to do that? I'm not using an extreme example, obviously, right? But that I don't need to go over to this foreign country and do through legitimate means make that money. Like this idea of like what you need to do in a capitalist society where your survival is based on like how much money you make and your status and your happiness is all based on this. Like it's pretty spurious to me.
I would not go to Russia. I would not go to Russia for 7
you're not
figures.
making,
I
like,
would
a
not go to
solid
Russia for
argument.
8 figures.
Hold on.
LeBron makes 338 times more than her.
All right,
Okay, so again, I think it's fine if you want to make money. That was never my criticism of her. If you want to say like, what if you don't need? Yeah, I don't think you would need to in that regard either. Like, if making 6 to 7 figures would be awesome. Like, yeah, if you'd want to do that. It wouldn't be like a need, but like to some extent, like
Let's
in terms of
reverse
like
this. Let's
your
reverse.
Oh, no,
this,
sorry.
okay?
Let Twit finish his point.
well, but
so
like in
we
terms of
won't
like your character thing, like I don't know, perhaps logically, yeah, it's not a need, but if you're making minimum wage, like the poorer you are, like the more sympathetic I am to your situation. Where like if you're actually like trying to make ends meet, like more like an empathy kind of like, oh well shit, like I logically like I'm still going to stick with the definitions, but like I feel more for you because yeah, you're actually struggling. What frustrates me is when people who are like making 130K, like well within the top, like what, like 10% of 20%, like yeah, like wealthy people, micro celebrities, right? Who are making this, and that's not even including like perhaps some kind of like deals they can make, like sponsorships, who knows? That we have to think that they need to go because they don't need to go.
Yeah,
and in fact, they're in a position where like I don't even feel like they need to go. I don't even feel like they should. Like more money is always great, yeah, and I guess you could want to go, but like your want compared to somebody living like in the fucking gutter, like a minimum wage. Like that person wants to like live a good life. You live a good life. You want to live a better life.
Yeah, and people want to live better
think-
lives.
Can I? So Prime, because I think maybe this will help some of you guys. So if somebody were like already wealthy, right, we probably wouldn't buy the idea that they were pressured into selling drugs, for example, right? That they were like trying to make ends meet, et cetera, pay the rent, whatever. But if somebody's poor, right, we'd probably buy that excuse sometimes if you're like a weak person, like some of you, right? You'll say, hey, yeah, you're poor, you don't have food, whatever. So maybe it's okay to do a bad thing, right? Selling drugs to your neighbors, poisoning the community because you need to get by, right? So I think that's kind of like the line that's being drawn here, right? So she's not in a position where she needs this, where it excuse for doing something immoral, right, or wrong to get more wealth, right? So I think that's the line that we're kind of hopping over.
I guess
You're
my,
putting
my-
so much
my-
into your career. Why wouldn't you try to get the most out of it that you could?
I don't know why
Angel-
you wouldn't.
Angel, do you watch?
and finally,
Angel, do you
the
watch the
last-
WNBA?
And the last
We
thing
already
I'll say,
discussed this.
the last thing I'll say is this
Exactly.
idea of risk. Let's understand that the risk was not there. Again, other than like doing the stupid thing about bringing the drugs in. I agree.
That was the risk.
No. But like, you got no, because people. Let's understand what people are saying.
It was
Don't go to Russia.
normalized.
People are saying don't go to Russia.
Russia-
Like going to
No,
Russia
it's-
makes no sense. No, Spartacus said that before. Like, why are you going to Russia? I wouldn't go to Russia. That doesn't make sense. People are criticizing her. For making $130,000 here, and then
Russia was
going-
not safe
going
before this.
going there to make money. Russia was perfectly safe. We had a bunch of legitimate other businesses.
They
working out of
illegitimately
Russia, just like
detained Paul
McDonald's.
Whelan in
just like-
2018. It was not
We
safe prior to
illegitimately
this.
detain people all the time here in the States. We do it all the goddamn
Then
time.
maybe it's
We're
not
on a
safe
regular
for
fucking
Russia to come
basis.
here.
On a regular basis, we do that. Let's not pretend that there was anything different from Russia. I'm saying that like the calculus that was going on here was made perfect sense. We got McDonald's and other brand names sent our businessmen over there to do business, right? Understanding Russia is Russia, but they made the calculus that it's fine. They don't
McDonald's
send
is
their-
in
they don't-
Singapore. You get
We
your
also-
hands chopped off if you get caught fucking
and they
grabbing a
and-
piece of candy. Like,
Exactly.
that doesn't
Does
make
that mean that no
Singapore
one should go to
safe
Singapore?
just because
Exactly.
McDonald's is there.
Well, but also
Yeah,
like,
but-
but
it means
like
is
we
No,
knew
no,
that
no,
Russia
no,
had the
no,
drug
no,
house.
no.
I've been trying to put in this fucking point for like a minute, right? We recognize that there is a reverse, okay? When you look at the United States hockey teams, right? Russians come over here for better financial opportunities all the time. You look at the Capitals team alone. There's Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, Samsonov, and Orlov are all fucking Russians that played hockey over there all the time, and they come over here for better economic opportunity, for more money, right? But it's not a stupid decision because there's like none of those people are in any real danger of the United States government locking them in prison to be fucking bargaining chips. But we have seen time and time and time again that Russia kidnaps political prisoners, and they do this regularly. If someone speaks out too much against Putin, they go to jail. If Pussy Riot wants to fucking talk some shit, they go to jail. In Russia right now, and for like the last decade, if you protest anything at all that the government does not like, they put a plainclothes officer to stand next to you with a sign and says, now you are part of a large protest because it's more than one person. They beat the shit out of you and then they put you in jail for months on end. Russia's never been fucking safe. America has been relatively safe for these people, and it's not an apples to apples comparison.
So the takeaway is to increase more sanctions, or just simply don't go to Russia.
What?
Don't,
I think a strict travel advisory is a good
Well,
idea.
If that's what you gotta, what?
Wait,
Wow.
Fabian, I actually have a question. So let's say hypothetically, right? Elon Musk was to go to Russia, right? Do you think that they would go after Elon Musk? You know, knowing his stature and position, in the
Probably not.
world and everything like that.
Be stupid for
Right.
him.
So at one point, I do think that it's probably fair to state that WNBA players went over there to play, thought that they were at that same level of this isn't stupid because it
Probably.
hadn't happened beforehand, even in the 10 years.
Why
of
she
them
got
running a
careless
crackdown
and
of
brought
that.
fucking weed with her and was being dumb.
Exactly. Right. So she got careless, probably due to, again, like lax, restrictions by the Russian government on what they would normally do, right? But she is still like making assumptions, and I'm not going to say she made a bad decision.
The Russians in my chat are yelling at me. They're like, "No, Elon is not safe in Russia. Don't go."
Yeah, okay, whatever. Like,
like, all right,
imagine
fair
that
enough.
there is a character that would be Fabian Chatters. So here's the thing, right?
Well, they're just
I
saying he
assume
ruined their
there's something.
space industry. They're gonna be in trouble. I'm like,
Okay,
all right, fair enough,
that's
Russia.
all right.
You
So,
would
yeah,
know.
but like,
yes.
imagine, you know what the analogy is. So, but that's the
Yeah.
thing is, I think that this is an issue of ignorance, and I don't really think we should start prosecuting ignorance unless we put it on the books.
I don't think
It is on
anybody's-
the books.
I've
You
been
just laid out as
advocating.
ignorance so much as like delusional narcissism.
I don't know if there's a difference between the two.
It's on the books.
Absolutely.
Wait, you said we shouldn't prosecute it if it's not on the books. It's on the books. It's on-
What is it? I honestly, I don't know. If
Smuggling,
there is-
smuggling drugs. Can't.
Yeah.
It's
So,
against-
but
yeah,
like, and
it's on the
that's like,
books.
again, like it's, yeah. So the smuggling drugs is on the books. Okay, cool.
I mean, that's
So
assuming
you
she even
prosecute
fucking did it, right? Like, you know,
What is
97%
the-
of fucking
She's never
cases in
denied
America.
it.
smuggling drugs, smuggling 2/3 of a
fair,
gram.
but-
What does that get you in a federal sentence?
If you're trying to smuggle it like internationally into the U.S., I don't know.
Say you had,
I don't know.
Yeah. So like, and that's like, I think a comparison we can also
But
go
it
ahead
doesn't
and
really
make,
matter.
right?
This is a different country with their own sovereignty. They can make up their own fucking laws about it.
Yeah, I've got like
their law.
I've got like an uncomfortable like hypothetical, I guess. Like,
Oh boy.
we treat it differently, but like they treat it very strict, and I disagree with them. But like, let's say you had a country like, I don't know, like Sweden, for example, where the age of consent is 15, and someone from Sweden comes over here and has sex with a 15-year-old, and then we arrest them for child molestation. Like, does Sweden have a leg to stand on demanding that we return their child molester because it's not illegal there, but it's illegal here?
Lactoid. Regardless of whatever the age of consent is in Sweden, I'm pretty sure the Swedish government would be like, "Oh, well, I guess that happened," and they'd fucking like they're not gonna fucking fight at the UN to get the
What if they
child
did?
molester.
What if it was a black lesbian?
Well,
and like
hold
they were
on.
very
This is not a hypothetical. This is Roman Polanski scenario that you're discussing right here. That's what happened.
Oh, okay. I didn't follow that.
Yeah.
So
that was back in the 70s. But yeah.
So for the first offense of smuggling marijuana underneath to the least amount is not less than 5 years and fine not more than $250,000. $1 million if other than an individual. So for the first offense, you can go to jail for not less than 5 years.
Not less than 5 years.
That's insane.
God damn! All
I'm
right.
telling you,
That's-
international shit is a whole different level. I'm telling you.
God damn.
So in America, she would have gotten a minimum of 5 years. So when you said before, somebody said, "Well, she would have been out already." That's not true. Like she got off in 5 years because she got caught in Russia instead of here.
Well, yeah, but here's the question: would that actually get prosecuted federally?
If it's a
the
minimum?
2/3? No, I'm saying, do you
No.
think that so law
Would a
means
prosecutor
nothing
Charges
if
would
we
probably
don't
get
uphold
dropped.
it, right?
Yeah.
The charges would probably not occur, and I think
I don't know about that.
I think we'd
If
have to find,
Ovechkin,
we
listen,
would have to
if
find somebody
Ovechkin,
that had a gram that got 5 years in federal.
I
prison.
can show you drug smugglers and drug
Yeah,
traffickers.
but
that
like-
get,
I know,
longer
but
than
like
that.
with
yeah, yeah,
just
but
one
like if
gram,
Ovechkin,
right?
if
That's like the
Ovechkin,
thing.
if Ovechkin went to go visit his family in Russia, right, and came back with a gram of weed in his bag to like play for a Capitals hockey game, he's probably not getting prosecuted and going to jail for 5 years.
I don't know. If they actually decided to charge, they would have the authority to. And
Unless,
like,
of course,
they would get it done.
we really want to get a spy back from Russia.
And this is like I guess this is like also like a
For
broad.
Ovechkin, though.
Well,
I
this
mean,
is like a broad
it's
question.
for Ovechkin, all right.
This is like a
super high.
yeah. This is like a broad question, I guess, on like officer discretion or like prosecutorial discretion on like what they charge and what they don't charge. I mean, the fact of the matter is, in the United States, it's illegal to import drugs. As much as I wish drugs were legal worldwide, it is like a crime to do it in America. And if they had charged her and prosecuted her in America, she'd be still sitting in prison. But because they prosecuted her in Russia, she does what? A couple months?
But okay,
It was 9 years.
We'll 9 years.
No,
yeah, 9
Griner.
You know,
Griner.
my,
Oh, Griner.
my
that's what I
co-host,
meant.
my co-host
That's what it was
wants
supposed
me
to
to
be.
ask Doobie about Isagawa and some Japanese German cannibal thing. Do you know about this, Doobie? 'Cause
I
have
know.
no idea.
I know
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. Was that the
It's
guy
fucked
who
up.
in Japan who met some dude who was into like vor? He wanted to be eaten, so the guy flew out to him. I think and he cut him up and ate him while he was still alive, and they're having a conversation while the guy's on the table. I think he actually fed part of his body to the guy, and the guy was totally into it. And I forget how long he actually stood in. He was actually in prison, but he's out now. He's free. And he ate a dude, so that's fucking interesting.
It's pretty big.
It's
There's
pretty chill.
one thing that's fucked up too. There was a Japanese guy who killed, I think it was 2 Dutch foreign exchange students, like in Europe. I think it was Italy. They caught him, and all they did was deport him to Japan, and he never got charged in Japan.
So apparently,
he killed 2 women and ate them, and now he's fine.
Yeah,
he's walking
apparently
around.
he said Isagawa ate a woman that went on a date with him, then was extradited to Japan. And that's
the one. And they did a documentary where like they went to his apartment, and he's like, he's fucking weird, dude. He's got all like these pictures of women all over his walls, like crazy shit.
Wait,
and he never saw a day of jail time for
somebody?
Yeah, well, he murdered a woman and ate her. He's never got punished.
A man for some reason. I guess
I know. I
there was a German case that happened as well. Yeah,
there was a German case where like the guy cut off his penis, and then like they like ate his penis together. There's lots of. I think there's a.
No,
few
he
of
ate
these
his whole
things that
body.
happen.
Like he ate him. He killed him and ate him. But that was consensual. The Japanese one was not consensual.
It might be more than.
Yeah.
2 of these
Apparently, he was
things.
extradited, and Japan like got him back, Isagawa back, and they
Wait, we're
and
both
never
these-
punished him.
Were both these cannibals Japanese?
I think
No,
one
no,
was
no, no,
German.
no.
I don't know the goddamn story. My co-host was like, "Ask them." One of them.
I
will
think
know.
there's multiple.
I know.
Isagawa sounds pretty fucking
I think there's
Japanese.
multiple examples of this, right? So like we don't
Yeah.
know this. We're just like in the dark here, but like there's multiple examples of people eating other people.